The O'Briens go on vacation for the first time in 5 years. Odo dusts off his Nestor card. And Molly O'Brien likes the Petersons more than she likes her own parents. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the 7th Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
All right. Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a quick, hilarious, and awesome review of Deep Space Nine Season 2, Episode 25, Tribunal, directed by, I don't know if you noticed who directed it.
Oh, who did direct this one?
I don't know. You may have worked with them before. Avery Brooks.
Let's see. The name sounds familiar. So Avery, this is his first directorial debut, I see.
I believe it is. I believe this is the very first Avery Brooks, so this is going to be an exciting one to talk about. Before we do, quick shout out. I feel like we're giving this lady a shout out every week, but she did mention something. Our resident doctor Anne Marie says a nice piece of trivia. She says this is the first episode that was released after The Next Generation ends. So The Next Generation did its final episode on May 23rd, 1994. This is the very first Deep Space Nine after Next Generation ended, meaning this is the first one in the era of two things. Number one, not being in the shadow of Next Generation. And number two, this 2-year window or 1-year window of Deep Space Nine going on its own without any other Star Trek shows. There's no Next Generation. There's no Voyager for a year or two. So this is the first one of you guys getting the training wheels off where they're like, all right, you're our guys.
Oh, this is the big boy moment where we have to stand on our own 2 feet, right?
Yep. And Mr. Brooks says, I got this. Let me direct this one then.
And he does direct this one. There were, interestingly, without me knowing who directed it, I took some notice of things. Specifically in the courtroom, there were a lot of things I felt like with angles, high angles and low angles, that kind of set the tone for, the authority that was being represented by these Cardassian High Court.
Right.
So there were little things. I mean, I didn't jump out to me like, oh, this was the directing on this episode. It was really carried by this story, which was an O'Brien story.
Mm-hmm. I think you and I are both feeling kind of relaxed today. It seems like it's a very rainy day here in LA. We're both kind of low energy. And you know what? I got to be honest, starting next week is when the crazy episodes start with like Jem Hadar and this and that. Maybe this is going to be like a relaxed episode, like the big breath before the storm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel it. This is the calm before the storm, as you say.
Yeah. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. We'll just kind of hang out, talk about a good episode, sing Mr. Brooks's praise, and have fun, I think.
Yeah, this feels actually more like it feels like the Maquis, where it was like a 4-part episode, really, because they're still telling the story of them, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I feel like this is still a part of the Maquis episode.
And how cool is that? Because it really kind of opens up the first hints of what Deep Space Nine became, which is much more serialized. Because now we're having this common thing that's coming back. And we've got little drops of the Dominion here and there. We've got the Maquis that are sometimes now the main focus of the episode. Sometimes they're just kind of like a secondary thing like this one. To where it turned out it wasn't really the Maquis, but the Maquis were kind of being framed for it. It's getting pretty interesting on that front. I also thought it was really cool that, we always have like 2 or 3 people that are off on a planet or doing something, and it's cool to see like the relationships and who gets what kind of focus. And we definitely had one that we've never had before. I mean, this was maybe the most Keiko-centric episode, but we had like a little Keiko, Chief O'Brien, and Odo crew, like a 3-person crew there. Was really interesting.
Yeah. And I got a little glimpse of Keiko and how wonderful actress she is. And, obviously she goes on to do so much great work in Hollywood, but this is sort of the beginnings of her career, and we're seeing her as a young actress really knock it out the park. I
Mm.
thought that she delivered a really good scene when she was asking Sisko to be honest with her. What was the deal? Basically, he had to tell her that he's facing execution, right? And I liked the way she did that performance. She was really she reminded me of an angry wife. There's no boundaries. Like she walked right into the ops right there. It's like, I need to talk to you, right? She's like, so I felt a little bit. I felt her pain in this one. The other thing we got to see, which we didn't get to see too much of so far, was this Odo O'Brien kind of relationship.
Little dynamic there, yeah.
Yeah, they normally don't have too much interaction, and this was like he stood up and like stood up for O'Brien in this episode, which I thought showed character by Odo.
Speaking of which, I did kind of consider like how it did work out seamlessly that it was the Cardassians, which implicated the Maquis. There's a natural connection there. And right. Odo did work with the Cardassians previously, so that was a natural connection there. But what if, for example, it was the Romulans or the Klingons? Then all that falls apart. Then suddenly, who's the Nestor? Odo wouldn't be able to do it. They'd have to come up with a different way or reason to work around it, but it was one of those things where it's like, oh, it works out perfectly, because the Maquis are connected with the Cardassians. Deep Space Nine are connected with the Cardassians. Odo is formerly connected with the Cardassians. So it was one of those things that kind of, they found the right, kind of like the right key to unlock all these things that work together really well, I thought.
Yeah, and it allowed the story to kind of fit together really nicely. Mm-hmm. And we get a little bit of background. I like when Odo said, I was Nestor Asco because guys. Yeah. I'm a certified Nestor. And I like the way he was kind of standing up for himself and asserting himself into this episode. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that's really good about DS9 is there's a lot of strong characters that are not afraid to insert themselves in different moments. Kira does a great job of doing that. She's like,
right.
She comes right. Yeah.
And Julian's always trying to insert himself.
Yeah. And in other ways. Not like that. Not like that. No. I was thinking more along the lines. Kira and you see Odo, and even Quark has very strong personality, not afraid to insert himself right in the heart of the mix, right? Even at his own peril. I mean, I think Odo actually was risking his own freedom at some point in defense of O'Brien, right? Mm-hmm. He says one line was like, "I wish I had a molar. If I only had a molar."
Oh, no, wait. That was a really good line. Let me see. I think I wrote it down where he says, where, they said, I'll hold you in contempt or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's like, I regret not having a molar to give to you. Or, oh God.
No, I have it here too.
Somewhere in there.
Yeah. I regret I have no teeth to offer the Bureau
of identification. Right. You got it.
Yeah. And I like that one. That was a great line.
And also, this was probably an episode that Avery targeted a while back to direct, because he probably said, I would guess after the first season, he said, hey, I want to direct an episode. And they probably said something to the effect of, well, it's probably pretty hard to be like the lead in an episode and direct it. And if you'll notice, Sisko was only in a few scenes. He wasn't non-existent. He was very important there, especially at the end. It was a really cool scene that we could talk about later. But it was a perfect episode for him to direct, because he's like, cool, Sisko, doesn't get like the lion's share of the lines. It's very clearly, Bashir, Odo, Keiko. So this is something he could direct and juggle that with acting at the same time. it definitely lends itself to that, I think.
It does lend itself, and I believe that this is going to start the trend of series regulars on the show directing this show. I recall Michael Dorn directing episodes. I remember Renee directing episodes. I don't know if Sid Dig directed. He may have. But
I feel like he did, but I can't say it for sure.
I can't say for sure either. But I just felt like there was this, our show did have a trend of a lot of people directing episodes, and Avery goes on to direct more episodes in the future. One of them, which becomes, one of the favorites of the series. So this is a glimpse into that. I like this actor who played Boone. I don't know. Really? Just because he reminded me of like the old West movies type actor. Huh. Like he looked like the old school, like he was in a Western or something.
What he reminded me of was my old Thai car mechanic, not because of any of his mannerisms, but because he has the same name. His name is Boone, and it's spelled the same. And I was like, oh, it's my buddy Boone. He could fix any Honda in any way.
I don't know Boone.
Oh, you should.
No.
He's a good guy.
But there was a Daniel Boone, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Right. There's also the Boone's beverage.
The Boone, something Boone's.
And there's the Boone Docks.
Right, but the Daniel Boone is kind of the one that this guy reminded me of. And I think they took the name because the character was a little Daniel Boone-ish. I mean, even his outfit was, it looked like it was made out of animal skins and like more of a Native American type of outfit. So I felt the Daniel Boone type feel to him.
The guy that played his attorney, what was the character's name?
Another person that I'm glad you were going to highlight because I thought did job.
Well, while I look for him, did you notice that we had a NAM today, huh? We had a non-appearance mention, and it was Molly O'Brien. She gets her third official non-appearance mention in the second scene, I guess, when Chief O'Brien and Keiko are talking. And O'Brien's like, what about Molly? Is she going to be okay with the Petersons? And she's like, and Keiko says, Molly likes the Petersons more than she likes us. So that's why I wanted to mention that one in there. But she gets her non-appearance mention, man. That's pretty cool. Her third one. So
the conservator, it was the lawyer that you're asking about?
Kovat.
Which was actually played by Bernie Sanders, and I thought that was awesome that he did his acting debut on our show.
Yeah, that was sweet of him.
That was very sweet of him.
Can you do a Bernie Sanders impression?
No, I don't know. I know winning is better than losing.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I didn't lose too bad.
I thought you were going to say like Star Trek is a socialist utopia. We should be more like Star Trek.
That's a good one. That was good. Good.
Anyway, I don't know the actor. I just saw I looked up his name. I don't recognize. It was like Fritz Weaver, I think it said.
I thought he did a great job of being like the prototype character for this like Cardassian ass kisser, essentially.
Right.
And he was great at it.
He really reminded me of another actor. And I can't remember who that actor is, but this actor's been in like a lot of things. He's like a bald dude with like kind of like a droopy face, and his voice really reminded me of that actor that's been in a lot of stuff, especially like sitcoms in the 80s and 90s. It's not him, but his voice especially just really reminded me of that guy. But I don't know anything.
I thought he did a great job. He was, he was a really incompetent lawyer, or a competent lawyer from the perspective of the Cardassians. I liked his last line, which is like, "I'm going to get killed for this."
Yeah, but they're like, "You won, dude. You actually won.
Yeah. Odo says you won.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what happened? He's like, you won. And then his line was, "They'll kill me," which was I thought was great because it just reminded me of like the kind of dilemmas Quark is always in, you know, where he's always going to get killed because of some reason or the other. Either the guy he's helping, the guy he's hurting.
Another character, you know, we're kind of pulling apart the characters, but this was one I wanted to highlight was we had our guy Gul Evek back again. I mean, we've had him in like 3, 4, 5 episodes now. He keeps popping up, and he doesn't get the notoriety that Gul Dukat gets for a variety of reasons. Number one, it's the character's just not as good, I don't think, as well created. And, you know, he's more like the utility Cardassian. When they need a Cardassian guy to be doing something, but they don't want it to be Dukat because Dukat has a very
high ranking.
Yeah, and a very clear and defined storyline and relationship with Deep Space Nine. But when they need a random Cardassian officer, bring in Gul Evek. So that was cool. It's good to see him again.
Yeah, he came back for a little bit. We also got to see what Cardassian Prime looks like, which,
beautiful.
You know, I thought was pretty, you know, it was the first time taking me to the surface for me. So I got to see a little bit of the city. And, you know, it was funny because when I was watching this episode, one of the things that came out to me or came to my mind was the movie Hunger Games. And I don't know if Hunger Games people like jacked certain elements of this episode or not, but the thing that I thought was Hunger Games like was this TV trial. This public trial, right? Like it had to be done for the purpose of television. So basically for the purpose of the mass audience.
It's a reality show, yeah.
It's a reality show, right? And then that's Hunger Games like, because a lot of the Hunger Games stuff happened publicly so that everybody would see it, right? Because it was part of a conditioning for the masses, right? So that was one aspect of it. The other aspect that I thought was interesting was they had it televised on the outsides of buildings, and people were watching it as, you know, on the outsides of these buildings. So I was thinking, okay, that's once again reminds me of these kinds of themes. So, there was a line where the judge says, you know, Odo asked for a private conference so he can talk with the lawyer about the details of the case. And there was a line where the judge says, private conferences don't make good good television viewing or something.
Right. She kept mentioning that. That was like the theme that they kept going with was, that doesn't make good TV. People want to see the struggle. People want to see you giving in and accepting this. And
yeah, use your last breath to confess your guilt. We want to see your wife crying.
Right, they did.
Yeah, so all of those things. And I felt like a lot of it was done for the show of it, which is interesting to me because, you know, they're really ahead of the game on that aspect of it. They could have easily had just made it a trial. You know, he's found guilty of this. We have to investigate. But they made it about it being a show of a trial to you know, reinforce the Cardassian legal system and make people who are at the bottom level feel like, you know, there's just as much justice in the world for everybody. I think they mentioned even a regular Cardassian can walk the streets at night safely.
Yeah, he said something like even the poorest of Cardassians can, like, why wouldn't poor people be safe too in your country? They're like, even the poor guys can be safe, man.
Yeah, even they can walk down the street without worrying. Yeah. And I was just thinking the points that the writers were making were kind of amazingly dead on, especially when you see how a lot of things today play out in public. And the show of it is almost bigger than being itself, you know?
Mm-hmm. The court of public opinion, kind of, yeah. Whereas in this case, they're kind of like creating that. They're saying, okay, everybody gather around as we reinforce how great our judicial system is and how great we are and how great everything is, and reinforce your confidence in us. Here, you know, we're going to present the evidence and the case. This person is going to admit guilt, and everybody's going to be happy and safe.
Yeah, and then they really touch on other aspects of the legal system with that when they talk about what you just said. This person is guilty, so they start off. You're basically guilty. If they catch you, if you've been arrested, you're guilty already.
You are guilty until proven guilty.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly. And that's how Black people feel all the time. So I could relate with that one. The other thing that was interesting was the Cardassian Miranda rights. I hope you got that. Did you write that down?
I didn't. I missed that one.
They were reading his rights to him.
Was it when they were stripping his clothes off? They really wanted to take his clothes off.
Yeah,
they were aggressive about that. I was
like, come on, man, let him leave his shirt on.
I was like, take it off, take it off.
Yeah, that's a little vulgar, the strip searching part.
But that was done previously in a Next Generation episode called Chain of Command, a two-parter. One of the best Star Trek two-part episodes ever. Really, really an amazing one, and where Captain Jellicoe gets introduced, and it is the Cardassians. Captain Jellicoe, played by Ronnie Cox, who's a fan favorite in a lot of ways. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in, but there is a precedent for that. We do have to go to our quick break, and then you'll tell us about the Miranda rights that I missed. And we'll be right back on The Seventh Rule with Ronnie Cox, Captain Jellicoe.
Captain Jellicoe.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc, Lofton, the writer, Jake Sisko.
And Captain Jellicoe.
That's right. In the break, we talked about Jellicoe for a little bit. Everybody that's listening is like, they either love Jellicoe or hate him, but I think he's aged well. Very quickly, before we go to the Miranda rights, I do want to do the quick trivioids that didn't make it. There are a lot of them at the beginning. There was, Dax will care for the secondary fusion core like it was her own child. She says that to Chief before he leaves. The O'Briens go on vacation for the first time in 5 years. Chief O'Brien has been driving Sisko crazy all day. Remember when Sisko comes out, he's like, is he gone? Did he leave?
Yeah.
Miles told Keiko he was going to bring the holocam, but he forgot it.
Yeah, Molly O'Brien, what they do with that holocam.
We do now. Molly likes the Petersons better than she likes her own parents. Cardassians really want Chief O'Brien to be naked. That was definitely they were very aggressive about his clothing. Odo dusts off his old Nestor card.
They even took a razor blade to his back. I was like, wow, that's
to his bun even too.
They couldn't find the zipper, I guess.
Yeah. And the last two, Raymond Boone is a liar. But it's not even the real Raymond Boone, turns out. Sisko grabs Raymond Boone and crashes a Cardassian court. That was a really good scene. Anyway, so what was the deal with those Miranda rights? Was it when they were tearing his clothes off?
No, it was when I think it was in the when they were in the little shuttlecraft with Kiko, and they appeared behind him and basically arrested him on the spot. I think they said something like, "You have the right to not remain silent." It was something like that. Like, you have the right to talk and just spill your guts out, tell us everything. It was kind of that kind of a deal. I should have went back and double watched this so I could have wrote it down.
I do remember that. I remember that because I was so fixated on nitpicking that there's 3 Cardassians that come down. One of them's holding a phaser. Gulliver says, hey, you're under arrest, blah, blah, blah. And then he says, you two, search the ship. It's a tiny shuttlecraft. Number one, where are they going to go for so long? But number two, the only guy holding a phaser is now off searching the ship. So all O'Brien has to do is grab a phaser, shoot a Vec, and now it's just 2-on-2. But he just stood there. He's like, what do you mean I'm under arrest? Doggone it. I'm like, you can go, dude. You're safe.
But then he puts up fights at other instances, like when they were stripping his clothes off. Then he wanted to fight. I was like,
everybody's tough when you're taking off their clothes. But.
I just felt like it was kind of it was weird that and when they beamed up, they didn't actually beam up in the transporter area behind it. They actually beamed up like directly behind his chair, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, wouldn't they know through like a scan what was on that ship? Like they'd be able to look through it and like
They
know if there's
should.
another person hiding there or something.
They certainly shouldn't have to go digging through their luggage to find.
Yeah, at least one guy goes looking. The other two, the guy with the gun, you stay here, not you, idiot. That's what he should have said.
Yeah. Also, a little before that was when Keiko, getting a little kinky Keiko for a second there, says, "Hey, if you're an engineer, you better figure out how to make these seats, lean back, and I'll make it worth your while." I was like, that is the sauciest I've ever seen Keiko get.
I missed that.
Yeah, she says, I didn't miss that. What did she say? How did she say? Anyway, she says, because they start kissing, and she's like, these seats don't lean back. And then he's like, yeah, what do you want to do about it or something? She's like, well, you're an engineer. Figure it out. I'll make it worth your while. Like, damn.
Oh, yeah. There was...
What do you think she meant by that, by the way?
I think she was going to make him some of his favorite soup if he liked that. Give him a hot stone massage.
That is okay. That's definitely worth it then.
They mentioned the Bolian freighter, right? It's like shout out to the Bolian freighters out there in the world.
Right. Not appearance mentioned for the Bolians.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing was that Dr. Bashir, there was a moment where he kind of stood up for his buddy. They were all in there, and they were kind of saying, "Well, it was his voice, and he was the last person." And Kira's like, "Yeah, he probably did it." And I think Bashir jumped up and said, "I know what you're employing, Major, and I don't like it."
Ooh, there he goes, trying to insert himself with the Major.
Yeah, and he got tough with her for a second. And she got double tough on the response. So it's like, stand down.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, there was a lot of things that I thought were interesting about this episode. The one thing that kind of crossed my mind during watching this episode was how long O'Brien has been a character now on Star Trek, right? Because he's coming from Next Generation, and he's on our show now. So he's basically been a Starfleet officer for as long as the new Star Trek has been around.
That's right. He was in the first episodes of Next Generation on the bridge.
Right. Mm-hmm. So that just makes me say, okay, no wonder he's grumpy, because he's like close to his retirement. He's like, man, I've been doing this for 25 years. I want my gold.
He's lower than an ensign too.
Yeah. He's like, dude, I've been working all this time. And the other thing is, he also said, and he said this in the episode, no one has questioned my loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that we do kind of take for granted when we watch O'Brien, is his loyalty, because of the fact that he's been Starfleet so long, we don't really question that he's down with the Starfleet plan.
That's true. We would never question him. He's one of the ones that, like Julian, who knows? He's all over the place. Sometimes Sisko might do something for the better good. Like when he didn't rat out his friend on the Maquis, Cal Hudson. He didn't do that, but obviously we understand why. Major Kira has major allegiance pulls in two directions between Bajor and Deep Space Nine, and Sisko. Odo too. Odo is just like about the promenade, not so much about Starfleet. Well, yeah, you're right. Chief's a lifer. He's just a regular, he's a lifer.
Yeah, he's the guy that rolls his sleeves up and goes to work, comes back home. He brings his own lunch in a box. He's that guy. And, he even said in this episode, every day I wake up trying to be the best man I can be, so Molly can be proud. She can have a dad that she can be proud of.
Right.
And I thought that's a pretty good line. That's what most dads do.
You mentioned Chief O'Brien's lunchbox. And I'm wondering, if you were to guess, what cartoon does Chief O'Brien have on his lunchbox?
That's a good one. What cartoon? I would say Inspector Gadget.
Huh.
or the Jetsons.
Yeah. I was thinking he feels like a Thundercats kind of guy to me. Like he fantasizes about just one day just ripping off his shirt and being Lion-O for a day with a sword, be like, Thundercats, ho! And then Keiko's like, go back to bed, Miles. You're like, yes, dear.
Yes, dear. Yeah, he had He-Man underwear on. That's why he didn't want the Cardassians ripping his clothes off.
But little did he know that everybody loves He-Man. They would have respected him more.
Yeah, they really would have.
Anyway,
no, I never thought what lunchbacks he would have. But this was a good episode for him. I thought this was like, he showed a lot of character. He didn't crack under pressure when it was like the moment. You know, he stood up and he was trying to make sure that he kept strong for his wife too. You know, he told her, "Go back home. I don't want you to be here. I don't want them to see you."
And you're right. You made a good point before I made my dumb joke about the lunchbox, was that he did say that he just wants to basically be a good man and a good mentor for his daughter to look up to. And you being a father of a young girl as well, you know that feeling. You want to be something that they can look up to and kind of model themselves after. Yeah.
Yeah, and that to me just really summed up who O'Brien is. You know, he's trying to be the best father he can be. He wants to make sure that he keeps his loyalty, but he remains loyal to the Federation, to his job, to the people that he works around, to his wife. So, I mean, all of those things are kind of tells us who O'Brien is as a person. You know, he's trying to be a good dad. He's trying to be a good husband and a good chief. That's really sums him up so good. The other thing that I kind of liked in this episode, we didn't talk too much about her, but her name was Judge Archon?
Makbar, and she was the chief Archon.
Oh, Makbar?
Yeah, Makbar, the chief Archon.
Yeah, say that 3 times fast.
No way.
So I thought she was pretty good too, because she was soft in certain areas where she was kind of being lenient, and then she was really tough in other moments. You know, she comes in really quietly and soft and like, "Hey, O'Brien, I'm sorry that they're treating you like this. You know, these people are so bad, but you're going to die, and we know you're guilty." So it's like, she was both sides of that coin of tough and a little bit sweet.
Right. She was a little, she had compassion for a Cardassian, in that she allowed this to be the longest trial in the history of Cardassia. So she was very patient and lenient. She was compassionate in that she felt bad for O'Brien and just wanted him to see the light and do what they're supposed to do, you know. And then at the end, she knew which way the wind was blowing, and she flipped the switch super fast to like,
yeah,
no, in the interest of good relations between Cardassian and Federation, we're going to go ahead and let this one slide. Oh, hi, Sisko.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing further here. Nothing further here to see. You know what I really liked too was the scene where Odo says, you know, who are these reliable sources? You know,
right.
And it kind of reminded me of, I mean, there's so many parallels when you watch DS9 episodes to things that have happened in real life, right? For example, this TV trial, I can think of, for example, the O.J. Simpson trial was a huge TV trial,
right?
And everything was kind of done for TV, right? People were staying at home to watch the trial, or not working, or watching TV at work to watch the trial. So it made me think of that. The other thing is, you know, these concepts also remind me of national security. They mentioned reliable sources and national security. And I thought of weapons of mass destruction. You know, reliable sources tell us that Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction.
What's your proof? Well, we can't breach security and tell you this.
Well, it's a matter of national security. I can't tell you. But they're reliable sources, right? And so this concept of just quoting reliable sources or quoting this random information that we don't really have any proof of is not unusual to the headlines of what we see in politics
Right.
or
It's the
television.
equivalent. It's the equivalent of when parents say, "'Cause I said."
Yeah. Why do I have to do that? Because I
Because
said
I
so.
said, yeah, but
Exactly.
why? Because I said. I'm reliable sources. I said.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. That's it.
And then
Final
we're just
judgment.
sitting there going like, okay, but it doesn't really sit right with
Doesn't
me.
doesn't make sense that I would have to do that though.
Yeah, no, but you're right. That was really good. That first he says, what reliable sources? And then she says, oh, that's a good question. She asked Olivec. He says, well, it's a matter of security. We can't give the answer. She says, that's an acceptable answer. And Odo's like, what? Well, then how do you know that this happened? And he says, from reliable sources. Okay.
Back to that again. So you can always use that. That's how things of these natures actually began. So this is exactly how you get into the position that O'Brien found himself in this episode, is because reliable sources who go unnamed get to set the tone for what the agenda is and what
Right.
really happens. And that's why it's important for people to face their accusers and people that bear witness against them in these kinds of incidents.
It does remind me too of news stories. Without getting into details, sometimes there'll be a news story where somebody is quoted as saying something or doing something, and then they say, where did you get that? What are your sources? And they say, we got it from 4 sources. So they say, this has been verified by 2 people that were near there and 2 people that they said. And then you trace it back and it's one person told 2 people, and those 2 people told the news thing. That's not like corroborating evidence. That's 2 people just saying what they heard from one person that made up the story.
Right.
But to them, that's correct. They're like, oh,
that's
2 reliable sources. Yeah. But those reliable sources just got it all from one source who told them, and who knows if that's true or not. Anyway, yeah, that's Deep Space Nine again being more relevant today than it was 25 years ago.
That's exactly why I brought it up, because that's what we see today in the headlines. We see those same kinds of tools of, I guess you could say, deception. It is a kind of deception, whether it's knowing or unknowing, but it's deceiving. And you see these kinds of tools at play today. So I think the guys were really ahead of the game as far as understanding just functionality of ways of human behavior.
Yeah, human behavior and psychology, the way society works, the way society has worked in the past, the way it likely will be going. I mean, they just really seemed like they had a good understanding of the way people and governments work,
Absolutely. Now, the only thing that I had a little bit difficulty with in this episode, as far as
this is when we need to have a graphic that drops down and says Cirroc's shit talking section.
Yes, here we
I'm ready for it. I'm here for it.
The thing I had a problem with was the fake Boone running into O'Brien, and in that short time, O'Brien say, hey, you remember me? We were friends, and da 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 da. And that guy saying, oh yeah, let me record his voice to use, because now I know he's the chief of the station. I know he's this and that, and I need his voice to do this. And all of that seemed so random of an interaction.
Yeah.
It didn't look like it would have been set up. If there was a setup and Boone was there to get O'Brien's voice on tape so he can do whatever kind of weapons dealing that he was going to do.
Yeah.
Then it would be more purposeful. It wouldn't be just like a random, I ran into you in front of Quarks on the way.
Otherwise, he's literally just standing outside Quarks for like 30 hours. Like, when's he going to come by? When's he going to come by? Oh, is he? And he starts to run into some. Oh, no, that's just Morn. Okay, just waiting and waiting. Yeah.
Yeah, with his recording device, on hand, waiting. So that's the part I had a problem with. It didn't seem. Now, if the guy kind of walked up to him at the bar and and sat next to him and said, "Hey, what's up, man? I heard you were here and stationed here. I came to visit." That would make more sense than just a random meeting between two people that passed. I just felt like that was too casual.
Right. I agree with that. And I also agree that taking that a little further is this whole ploy was all put together at the same time as O'Brien, I would say, happened to be going on vacation, but obviously it may have been by design. So not only is he timing it perfectly, but he has to hope that he runs into him before he goes on vacation, because that's his last stop before
That's
going.
his last stop.
If he misses him, he's like, okay, well, he went on vacation. When's his next vacation? 5 years from now. Okay, well,
Right.
there goes our plan.
And so that small window is just, it's a little bit hard for me to believe. That's all I'm saying. If it was set up a little bit differently, then I understand. Like I said, if they approached him while he was on vacation or something, or if they approached him at the bar and they had more of a conversation, so it looked more purposeful for Boone to be looking for the guy.
Right.
Hey, O'Brien, I've been looking all over for you. And he's like, I'm leaving. I'm going on vacation. Oh, man, I thought we'd have a chance to catch up. I'm in town because, da, da, da.
Mm-hmm.
That would make more sense. But the guy looked like he didn't even know who O'Brien was.
He's
right?
like, huh? Oh, what a coincidence. You're the guy I'm here to frame. Thank goodness I got your voice.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing I saw you before you went on vacation. So that was kind of hard for me to swallow. The other thing I noticed that, and this stood out to me in watching the episode, is that you've always highlighted O'Brien being grumpy about Cardassians, right? That's one thing since we've been doing the show.
It up, yeah.
Yeah, and they finally brought it up, and his words actually were used. Did you not say this about Cardassians?
They had it coming, I think was the line. Didn't you just say they had it coming? And you're right. And I did like when she said, the Archon said, how many Cardassians have you killed? And he says, none since the war. And she's like, including the war. He's like, well, I don't know. I don't know.
It was a war.
It was a war, whatever,
But the other thing I noticed too, in that same exchange that you just brought up, was the word Cardi. She said, did you not say that the Cardis should deserved it or something? And she actually abbreviated the word Cardassian into Cardi, which made me, of course, think of Cardi B, the famous Cardi. And I thought, well, I just bear with me for a second. But I'm
hanging by a thread.
It just made me think of the two people we have in popular culture that we owe to the Cardassians, that are the Cardassians. Or the Kardashians, yes, tomato, and then also now Cardi B. So, thanks to the magic of Star Trek, we can thank the world for having those.
And also the brand new Star Trek series, Star Trek Picardy.
Oh man, I'm laughing out of pity, man. That's it.
I'll take your pity, makes me stronger. So we only have a couple minutes left here, but I do want to cleanse my palate a little bit, and because there are a few things that were a little weird, a little off, but there were some good things like what you just mentioned about the Cardassians. Deep Space Nine, again, is not afraid to not just explore racism, as we've seen many times, especially with that iconic moment where Sisko goes in a box. But not only do they explore it, but they're not afraid to explore that we are the racist. Like Kira in Duet is the racist. O'Brien is racist. Now, you could say, well, he has good reason. They were at war. Sure, when you're at war with a group, you can go to war with them, but that doesn't mean you should hate all Cardassians or hate the actual people instead of the government, So it's really cool that Deep Space Nine is willing to explore racism. Anybody could be like, oh, they're racist against us, but Deep Space Nine likes to say, no, we're exploring our own, So I thought that was really cool.
I do think you're right about that. Like you said, not only within the human race, but racism outside the human race. in between races. And that's why it kind of jumped out at me when O'Brien was being held accountable for his racist words about the Kardashians in this episode. He actually had to like admit it, and he thought about it like, yeah, damn, I have been saying these things
every day.
every day. So he actually, there was a moment where he had to actually own up to it. You know, you had to own up to it publicly in front of the entire Kardashian community. Yeah, I've been saying these kinds of terrible things about them. Yes. And maybe that'll change his way of going forward, you know?
Maybe.
But then again, they did strip him naked and put him on trial for something he didn't do.
So maybe he'll like him even more now.
So yeah, maybe.
And another good moment was a classic Star Trek moment, which was when we know the dude's lying, Raymond Boone, and they're like, oh, well, you haven't spoken to your parents in 8 years. He's like, I'm not really close with them. And then there's that classic Star Trek moment when they go, oh, really? We talked to your parents. We've done our due diligence. Sisko walks in with Julian, and they're calling him out so hard. That was great.
Yeah, and he makes a very weak run for it.
Yeah, that's right. That's another Star Trek trope. The Star Trek runaway of like, darn.
I guess I can't go anywhere. Yeah. No, Raymond Boone. Yeah. So I mean, that's how he was good and bad. So there were good parts about what he was doing, bad parts. But I think the bad parts were purposely done by his performance. So I can't really call it on that specifically.
And we never found out who that mysterious Maquis guy was that popped in by Julian. That was another Star Trek moment that was so obvious when Julian walks in and it's dark. He's like, computer lights. And we knew, we're like, okay, who's there? Who's waiting for him?
And, it's funny you brought that up because I thought the exit on that was hilarious. It's like he walked away, behind Julian.
And he's just gone.
And then he's gone. And Julian doesn't even go out the front door to look. The normal thing to do is look down the hallway and say, which way did he go? Or, But Julian's like, I guess he's not here anymore. So he's gone. Right. He could be hiding under the table. You don't know where he is, right?
I thought that would have been so great because I think he went the opposite direction of the door even. So it'd be so great if Julian's like, what? Where'd he go? And he's like, oh, come on. And the guy's just ducking behind a trash can. He's like, you can't see me. Whatever. Don't look. I'm mysterious Maquis guy. And Julian's like, well, you just, okay. I don't see you. Okay. Let me walk off and leave
the door. I'm going to the other room so you can leave now.
Like, don't lock the door or I can't get out. Okay, I'll leave it open. Jesus Christ, this guy.
It was a terrible walk away. The lights came on in 1 second. I was like, give yourself a head start to get a run for it.
Sure. If it was someone like Ducat or Odo or Q, we'd be like, ooh, that's them being cool. But a regular humanoid person doesn't have disappearing skills.
Yeah, I can still see you.
Yeah. He's like, can you see me now? What about
yes.
What about if I cover my eyes? It doesn't work that way, dude.
Yeah, that was the funny scene there. I was like, this is not really that believable.
So anyway, that's
terrible security, by the way, on these starships.
When O'Brien's or when Odo's gone, maybe that's the call for when Odo's gone.
Yeah, almost anybody can get into almost anybody's quarters. I'm like, they need one of those doorbell ringing apps or something.
Ring. I did a Ring commercial with Shaquille O'Neal. I worked as part of the production with Shaq.
No way.
Because he's a partner of that. It's him and then the other guy that started, the two of them. Shaq's taller than that guy. And I got a pretty funny Shaq story. I don't know if we have time for it, but real quick. So I set up this whole suite for Shaq's entourage, right? Upstairs in the studio where you can look down and watch the whole thing. It's a whole wall of windows so that they could look down upon us and watch everything. Big screen TV up in there with video games and NBA 2K20, all kinds of great stuff, tons of food, drink, everything. So they could just be up there hang out, 4 or 5 of them, do whatever they want. Everybody's happy, right?
Yeah.
And for Jack, got him, he said he wanted like, chicken salad with like not ranch dressing or something super healthy. Okay, cool. Got everything ready to go, right? Anyway, fast forward to lunch. I'm just about to give him his chicken salad, and he goes, suddenly he changed his mind. He doesn't want a chicken salad. He wants, I want 4 double doubles from In-N-Out, right? With 2 large fries, 4 double doubles from In-N-Out. I'm like, how do you go from chicken salad to 4 double doubles with large fries? So of course, I'm like, shit, let me just go run and get that real quick, right?
Yeah.
So I just run out to go get it. It's in Hollywood. You may find this surprising, but the Hollywood In-N-Out at noon
is packed.
I was there. I was in line for like 45 minutes trying to get this guy's double doubles. Anyway, so that was, but I got him, and Shaq was very happy with them.
So he wanted all 4 double doubles for himself?
Oh yeah, he was ordering lunch. He's like, never mind on the salad. I want 4 double doubles and 2 large fries.
Wow, I don't think I could eat 4 double doubles and 2 large fries.
Yeah.
I can get 2 down with
but
fries.
you're not 7'1", 350 pounds of beef.
No, it's actually pretty light for what I would expect him to eat.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Anyway, so we always sneak basketball in somehow, but we got to run.
Shout out to Shaq and In-N-Out.
Yes, that is a good shout out to In-N-Out. And The Ring, by the way. Check out The Ring. Anyway, thanks very much for joining us for Avery Book's phenomenal directorial debut, for Cirroc Lofton, for Aron Eisenberg, that is infused in every single little thing that we do with this show. For Russ Hasledge, I'm Ryan T. Husk. Always remember the 7th rule. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the 7th rule. This is the free-for-all with Cirroc Lofton, Heather Jordan, Homer Frizzell, that's Commander Homer Frizzell, of course, Yvette Blackmon, Eve England, Rex A. Wood, Dr. Marie Segal. I'm Ryan T. Husk, and we just finished reviewing Season 2, Episode 25, Deep Space Nine, Tribunal, and that brings us to our first big question of the day. Cirroc brought up Miles O'Brien taking his lunchbox to work. So the question is, and we're going to start with Anne-Marie, since she's always very confident in her answers.
Okay.
Pick one character from Deep Space Nine, and what cartoon do they have on their lunchbox that they take to work? Yvette likes that
Bashir
one.
definitely brings lunchbox, and I would say he has Felix the cat on his lunchbox.
Felix the cat. Okay.
Speaking of cat, hey cat.
Oh,
Cat or king.
Cat or king.
So, Kat, the question is, give us a Deep Space Nine character and which cartoon they have on their lunchbox. You don't have to answer right away. Just catching you up to speed.
Okay.
I think Rex A. Wood wants to go next.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I would say maybe Quark, and maybe, oh gosh, this is really hard. Quark and maybe Tweety Bird? I don't know, just because, you know?
Did not have him take my but I love it.
Yeah.
I have one.
Okay, wait, but first we have to hear Rex's Tweety Bird impression, right?
Yes.
I don't know. I thought I saw a Cardassian. I thought I saw a Cardassian. That would be
wow.
Oh wow, Tweety Bird was not what I was expecting.
Tweety Bird after 80 years of smoking, right there.
Oh, that was great.
There you go.
All right, Kat, go for it.
Okay, mine is it's Quark and it's Rom. It's Quark and Rom, and they have the Pinky and the Brain.
Very absolutely.
It's Pinky and the Brain, baby.
That's a good one.
Which one's which?
Perfect.
I think we know which one's which.
I think you're right.
We know Quark is obviously
Pinky.
No, I'm just kidding.
So,
Fork's the
line would
brain.
be-
Fork's always the brain.
The line would be, how are we going to take over the space station?
Maybe that could be then that would be Damar and Gul Dukat then.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to do tomorrow night, brain. Same thing we do every night.
Try to
You can
take
totally
over-
hear Rom doing that voice though, right?
Yes.
Same thing we always do, brother.
Yep.
oh, brother.
Miss Eve England, all the way out in Wales, UK. Are you ready to do this one?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is quite a tough one. I think, though, I would probably say Bashir had a He-Man lunchbox, just because I think he just has an image that he is He-Man, where he's just so not. So I just think that would be quite ironic.
Nice.
That's
Nice.
brilliant.
Coast to coast. Eh?
That's a good one.
I love it. Good
And
one.
who could blame him, right?
Exactly. Who wouldn't?
Clearly.
All right, Yvette Blackmon, we're ready for you.
I'm say Miles, the Flintstones.
Okay.
I love that.
Reminds me of the Flintstones, the whole family.
Oh,
I could so see him with his feet
Right.
in one of those
Feet
little
with his
cars.
feet, that's all I kept thinking.
Is he the grumpy Fred Flintstone? That's the guy he identifies
Oh,
with?
yeah. Yeah,
I don't know.
definitely
He
Fred
might be
Flintstone.
more Barney Rubble.
Maybe,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
think he could be either one, but definitely Fred because he's always grumpy.
Yeah.
You know, the fun thing is Vic Fontaine is in the Flintstones. James
Really?
Darren's in an episode, yeah.
Oh, yes. That's cool.
Oh yeah, he is
At
in one.
STLV at the table, he had like some of the pictures you can
Yeah.
get with him are him as like James Durrock or something, and he'll sign it. It's really cool.
He did the episode of the Flintstones?
Yeah,
The Flintstones, yeah. He was like the Fred, the
he's a teen
Frank
idol.
Sinatra type guy.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
a rock or something.
Wow, that's really cool.
he's so cool.
I had no idea.
Hmm.
All right, Commander Homer Frizzell, all the way from New York City-ish.
Yeah,
No, definitely New York City proper.
yeah, it's the
Come on,
top. This is top of
Proper.
Manhattan. This is the tough one, and I don't completely love my answer, but it's what came to me. It's what I'm going to go with. It is Rom, and it is Inspector Gadget.
Nice.
Oh!
Also on CBS All Access.
Little inspector.
Nice. Cirroc mentioned Inspector Gadget earlier, too.
I did.
Did you?
Can't wait
Good
to hear
work.
that.
Anybody
Good
say
work.
Janeway yet?
If it
And
was
Wonder Woman
recorded.
or anything like that?
Oh, we're sticking
That's
with
what
Deep
I was
Space Nine,
actually
but you're
going
allowed.
to go
okay,
with.
okay. Oh, Deep Space Nine. Gotcha.
We are. Nobody said it was Deep Space Nine.
Oh, yeah,
I
I
came
heard
in
Deep
late,
Space
so I
Nine.
didn't know.
Oh, did you?
It was-
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair
All
enough.
right, we're ready for you, Heather, now that you have to change your answer last second.
I know. I was gonna go with like Nana Visitor, or I'm sorry.
Oh no, you did it
I
again.
I said the actual actor's name. I was
Someday.
gonna go with.
Someday you're gonna get it right.
Kira,
Kira.
Major Kira.
I was getting there. I was gonna go with Major Kira and Bugs Bunny. I don't know, like she would have that cuddly character more than anything,
Hmm.
to show her softer side.
She likes to see the
is,
fights
like,
between rabbit
non-Bajoran
season and duck
colors.
season.
I never
Yeah.
thought of Bugs Bunny as cuddly.
But I was
It's
also
more like
gonna-
Elmer J. Fudd, right?
Good one.
Hunting down Kardashians.
Yeah.
All right,
Number
Cirroc.
Jake.
Cirroc, you want to give
First of
another?
all, what would Jake bring?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
Jake. Oh,
Yeah, what would Jake?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Hmm.
he wouldn't have a cartoon character on his lunchbox.
That's a
No, I
good
bet
one.
Jake
Yeah.
is, like, Bob's
He would
Burgers
have
or something.
like a baseball player on his lunchbox.
like Willie Mays or something.
Buck
something
Bokai.
like that.
Yeah, without
Like,
original.
I don't know.
treatment.
That's
I
what
think
I
I
feel.
think we should let Cirroc answer this and not give him his answer.
No, I
He's taking all.
He's
It's like giving
loving
him.
it. He's
taking it
loving
all
He has
in.
no clue.
us divining what we think he would want him to have.
He doesn't know.
Cirroc, what do you think?
Yeah, that's a good one. What would Jake have? I'm not sure. I felt like Odo would have a Yoda lunchbox.
Oh,
Mhm.
cute.
Yeah,
Baby
I-
Yoda or regular Yoda?
a regular Yoda.
Baby Yoda, obviously. Come on.
Regularly.
Take your hand, make a fist.
Cisco, I think, would have a Boondocks.
Boondocks?
Yes, for sure.
Oh,
You have a Boondocks
Then
lunchbox.
does Nog get Ziggy or like? I always could have saw Nog and Ziggy.
I think he did.
Ziggy.
But, like,
I don't think they made lunchboxes for like the comics. Did they? They made the Archie one though? They made like,
they did.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Now for me, I'm going to just say I'm pretty confident in my answer. It just kind of came to me, and it's pretty solid, I think. I do think Commander Sisko in his off hours binge watches the Smurfs. I think that
Because of course he does.
well, after a long, stressful day at work, he just wants to sit and watch blue guys
Does he pop
running
a Smurf?
around. He just likes to get lost in
Wait
the
a
world
minute.
of Smurfs.
Everybody you love blue, like bullions.
Oh yeah,
Smurfs.
dead
Yeah, that's
people.
true.
Well, Smurfs would be
None of your
as
favorite
Andorians. Little blue Andorians with Smurfs,
Yeah.
you know.
Which Smurf would he relate to?
Jokey, obviously.
That's the best guy. He's the one that always
I
goes,
thought you meant
It's a
Ryan.
surprise.
I don't know about this.
Thanks for the impersonation there. That was awesome.
Yeah, that would be
Jokey
great.
Smurf, man. He's the best one.
The other day, I have to say on live chat, like when you guys premiere your episodes, somebody called Ryan the Punisher, like Pun in all capital letters, on Insta, which I thought was amazing.
Because it's a punishment to hear them.
Oh.
Oh, somebody's slapping their knee.
That was me.
Okay, so what's the next question?
Anne Marie, you usually come up
Ryan's
with
got
good
those
questions.
dad
Do you
jokes.
have one?
You know, not so much because I got really bogged down by like how weird it is O'Brien isn't more concerned that he lost a tooth in this whole affair. That always really bothers me.
You think you'd be more upset about that tooth, that wisdom tooth being pulled
It's
out?
so weird that somebody pulled a tooth out of his mouth and he doesn't like. Obviously, there's a lot going on in his mind, but it also be like, wait, they took one of my teeth.
Okay, how about this one?
Yeah.
Which character do you guys think would be the most likely to have dentistry as the career that they just always think like, "Oh, I could have been a dentist.
This year, obviously.
Clearly.
Too easy. Besides anybody in the medical field, we'll start with Eve England. What do you say, Eve?
Ooh. Oh, maybe Wolf.
Definitely.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're
I
going to
should.
disgrace yourself to the Klingon Empire, why not have gone just big,
Exactly.
real epic, you know?
He'll be a life
think-
coach with the
I
I
industry.
think Worf would be the worst dentist to go to.
Yeah, you're not getting any gas.
Hey, his
Stop
teeth were like the
squirming.
best. I thought he had like the best Klingon teeth. Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we get an
Yeah.
impersonation
Yeah.
there? I know Homer's got it.
Yes.
Homer?
Ryan's like, go fast so I can do my Worf impression.
No, I'm waiting.
The answer or an impersonation
I
of
think
both.
he wants an impersonation of Worf as a dentist.
Yeah.
Perhaps so.
open up or I will destroy you.
I thought he was going to say something like, perhaps today is a good day to brush.
Yes,
Or something.
today is a good day for an extraction.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, as far as the dentist, it would be Grand Nagus Zek, and he would
Oh.
use those Ferengi sort of teeth sharpeners on all of his patients.
Oh yeah.
Singing the dentist song from Little Shop.
Oh god.
Yeah,
Oh, hilarious cat! Amazing Little Shop callback.
So,
Song
I
to be
don't
a
think
dentist.
I like
I don't
Grand
think they
Nagus
have any
Zek as that, as
dentists.
a dentist. That's a good idea.
yeah.
There's no need for dentists in the 24th century, right?
I mean, that's what
That's
I
true.
kind
I
of
think they just go to the doctor, right?
Gum disease in the 24th century.
I don't think the Ferengi have dentists.
They sharpen their teeth.
Okay. Yeah, their teeth don't look.
They
well manicured.
go for the grunge. They're looking actively.
That's the look. That's the
movie
look.
sharp.
The yellower, the sexier.
You have to also make sure that they don't align, so they have to be moving around all different places. A lot of
Angular.
work.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
What do you think, Rex? Who really wishes they could have been a dentist, excluding medical professionals?
Garrick. Garrick.
Mm. I think he'd be a
Are
good
we
dentist.
sticking to
Yeah.
just Deep Space Nine again, or can we go off?
Anybody you want.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Garrick would definitely upsell you on the teeth whitening.
You need
get
the
upsold.
fluoride. Yeah.
And she would get lots of like gas so that
And you would
can
do
kinda, like,
a lot of unnecessary procedures too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Because
much.
he wouldn't really tell you the truth about what was wrong.
Right.
So am I lying to you that you really need all those teeth pulled out, or am I just wanting to pull them out? Okay.
Then he'd sell you designer dentures.
veneers.
There you go.
Or
Yes,
veneers,
they're all
yes.
the fashion.
What do you think, Yvette?
I have no idea. I had Garrick at first.
Yeah.
But the tailor, so I thought he'd be great at that.
Yeah,
But I
good
can't
at.
think of anyone else.
Garrick would be good because he takes pride in his work, and he would definitely take it very seriously. And you're right, Cirroc, he would upsell a ton.
And dentists like torture anyway, so he'd be perfect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
That's 2 for Garrick. What do you think, Kat?
Oh, I say Esri.
Oh, that's a good one.
To take the pressure off, man. Those were some big shoes to fill. I should have been a dentist if I had been her. I'd been like, no, it's not the one.
Yeah.
Those are some big shoes she had to fill, and it was a lot of pressure. So if I had been her, I would have been like, let me get that dentist.
Yeah. She would be sweet as a dentist.
She would be a great dentist.
Yeah.
Perfect teeth. Smile.
I'm still picturing Grand Negasek, though. I think that would be
Sharpening everyone's teeth.
where he's like, they're like, he's got like one hand in your mouth and the other hand on your hip, and like, how did that get there?
Yeah, and he's leaning over you, and he has the hair coming out of his ears.
Yeah,
It's way too close.
Literally drooling.
Oh,
yes, I just had some tube grubs.
One hand on your face, one hand in your wallet. That's
Right.
Solid.
Oh yeah.
What do you think, Heather Jordan?
I'm gonna say Barkley from Next Generation.
That sounds stressful.
He just
Yeah.
reminds me of the Elf from Rudolph. Remember the Elf? He's like, I just want to be a dentist. I don't know why, but that's just where I get Barkley.
That was the inspiration behind the question. I pictured that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's where I
wow.
went.
Wow, really?
Like,
Wow,
I
that's
just
cool.
want to be a dentist.
Barkley.
Cirroc, what do you think?
I think the Klingon that owns the restaurant.
The singing Klingon.
Yeah, the accordion.
Singing
player.
Klingon.
Yeah, that'd be the guy that I would like 2 hands in my mouth.
Yeah. His dirty uniform.
What? Oh.
No, you know how he's always grabbing those worms with his hands and like putting it on your plate. He's really good with his hands.
Yeah. Good hand coordination.
Right.
What about Anne Marie? I think she's got the answer.
Yeah.
I
She probably has the
I think
ultimate.
it is Moogie, right? Because wasn't she the one who sharpened the boys' teeth when they were little?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
had, like a wood sharpener for Cork, and then like Rom got an actual knife one.
Yeah.
So
You
I
say
would
so?
say her. And she worked wonders with their teeth.
I must have
Ryan's not
blocked that
convinced.
out.
What?
Oh, they look so cute when they smile.
I can't think of anybody. I was thinking of maybe Hoshi would be a nice one.
Or
Just
Newick.
because-
She's always looking for work.
Because she'd be like, she'd be like nice about it and friendly, and she's good with translations. So like you could just go like, and she'd be like, oh, I
Actually,
like
that's hilarious.
goldfish crackers too.
That's
She'd
really
know
good.
exactly what you're saying.
I'm pretty sure that's not what you
That's
said.
the ultimate dad joke. Like I think that was the ultimate.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's true.
Either her or I was thinking Saru too, because Saru's got like really long fingers, so he could just kind of get all up in there and just play the accordion with your teeth.
He's really tall.
Tentacles.
So,
I'm
like,
here
it's
for that.
easier to like get above somebody to look in their mouth if your torso's that long.
Well, actually, dentists have to be shorter because they're always bending over.
Well, you can like move the chair up and down. It's kind of like in surgery. You can have stools, but you.
Yes, I just hear that that's the number one.
Taller to be able to look in their mouth in the first place.
Is that the
Backaches are a
prerequisite
big
for dentists? I didn't know
dentist
dentists had to be shorter.
Well, no,
No.
The
bending
more
over.
you know.
Bending over is like hurts their back.
Yeah,
That's like
dentist
a big dentist
jockeys.
thing.
So you
Who
can move the patient and the
Over.
but if
Quite an
you're already
education
really
today.
short, it's hard to look in.
I thought the chairs were adjustable, but apparently there's only one level, and that's for shorter people.
Mm.
No, they always have to bend their heads down and look in your mouth. It hurts their necks and backs. I swear, ask a dentist. That's the biggest
That is true.
issue.
But if you're already short to begin with, it's hard to get like the patients low enough to look into like their mouth or their abdomen or something.
Well, I'm not
This is
saying
the
like be
worst
like really short.
I
Not be
feel like
tall.
there's an opportunity
Help.
here. Someone could invent
Yeah,
a better
help.
dentist bed.
So
Yeah.
we only have a minute left, but if possible, since we hardly ever get a chance to talk to our friend Eve here, I didn't
Yes,
want to ask Eve very quickly, how are things over in your neck of the woods over in Wales in the UK? And if you could just kind of tell us a little bit about what the world is like for you over there, if possible.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, to be honest. I haven't actually been out of the house other than my allowed exercise for 3 weeks. So I feel a bit like I'm in this bubble. So at the moment it's a bit weird. We're working from home, spending time in the garden, just going out running in the park. But I haven't even been to a shop, haven't been outside. I just sent my husband out to get all our food. But at the moment it's just, it's a bit weird. We're just very lucky at the moment. We've had some pretty good weather, which is unusual for here. So it's just, so far it's not been so bad. You don't feel cooped up in the house. But yeah, I think it's pretty scary though, watching the news, and obviously we've had Boris in hospital, but it looks like he's on the mend. So I think everyone's a bit more positive now, and just trying to get through the next few weeks. So yeah.
Awesome. Sounds like you're doing really well too, staying indoors and not going to stores. We know there are a lot of people around here that love to go to stores so much, but it's good that you guys are staying behind and gardening. Sounds very peaceful. We got a lot of rain here in LA, but we like it.
Yvette, are you in a running group?
What's
Sorry?
that?
You're in a running group, Yvette?
Yes, several.
Are you?
Wow.
Do you guys still running? Are you still able to run together, or at this point?
We're doing our own runs, but all the races are canceled until the fall. So we're just kind of figuring out, because I have New York City coming up. Not sure what's gonna happen.
What, New York City? What, do you do a whole marathon?
Marathon? Yeah. We have
Wow.
that. I have that coming up, so we don't know if it's gonna happen or not. So we're just waiting. They've all my races have been canceled. So. But we're still running. The groups are still out. They're not running together, but we're doing our individual runs, and then we get together and talk about it, see how people are doing nutrition, and what kind of workouts they're doing. That's what we're just doing. A lot of
You're a
depression
legitimate
going
runner.
on because runners need to run.
That runner's high.
Mhm, yeah,
It's real.
it is.
It's real. It is real, right?
It's funny because nowadays people actually cross the street when they're walking on the same side. I don't know if you guys experience this, but it's almost like it's the polite thing to do now. It's kind of across the street, right?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Before
They're like, oh, thank you.
Now it's like, oh, thanks a lot. I don't have to cross. You crossed for me. Great. We don't have to run into each other.
People are very polite now.
Whereas
very polite about that.
Before, how would you feel if somebody crossed the street if they saw you walking along?
He's like, what's wrong with that guy?
Damn problem.
What's his problem?
I saw you.
Right.
Yeah. Now it's like, don't worry, I got it.
Do you think that the New York City cat collars have changed? Like, do they say something different now? Like,
oh yeah, I've seen a whole.
Instead of like, hey baby, come here. They're like, stay 6 feet away.
There's just nobody on the street.
Yeah, you look good with that mask on, girl. That's all I. That's what
it's hoping for. Exactly, right there. That's it.
There you go.
Grocery store did say something like that. I mean, I
There it
was
is.
wearing a mask.
There you go. Oh man,
That's a nice one.
Yeah.
Oh,
got a nice
one.
I got some
Yeah.
I got
real
sneakers to
toilet
go
paper
with
over
that one.
here.
Where you get the red one?
Actually, friend of the show Darnell told me to get dressed up to go to the grocery store because it's like the social outing now. He was like,
Yeah.
"You never know who you
Ooh, oh yeah. I'm always
Yeah.
wastelanding it out when I go out in my boots.
are."
And
Yeah.
I'm
Did you
ready to go.
Chic.
I've seen. Did you see like the pictures
only
of
place you
people
can
like
wear your
wearing
clothes-
full
wear
on
your
like
clothes.
trash bags and like duct
Oh, yeah.
tape, and they're like, I'm like,
Me taking the trash out to my
I see that at the
Yeah.
gym. The
Yeah.
trash bag people at the gym.
Bag.
Guys, we got to run
I have
off.
to say I've been following
Why are you at the
pictures 'cause
gym?
they're beautiful.
Why
No,
are you
not-
at the
Outdoor
gym?
pictures.
Not
Why are you
now.
at the gym?
I'm saying in the
Oh.
past.
Okay.
In the past, when you go to the gym
Alright.
and there's sometimes people wearing like the trash bag outfit, but not right now. I haven't been to the gym
Trying
in
to
a
sweat
while.
it out, you mean? Like the
Yeah.
sweat
Oh,
box
okay.
up it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright.
So thanks all for joining us, Kat. That was really chic. Good job. Nice mask. Thank you so much, Eve England, for joining us.
Yeah.
Yvette Blackmon, Anne-Marie Segal, Rex A. Wood, Homer Frizzell, Heather Jordan, Cirroc Lofton, and Dennis Koch, even though he wasn't here. Thank you for Russ Haslage
There it
and
is.
Aron Eisenberg. I'm Ryan T. Husk. Always remember the 7th rule.